welcome back to DanaCast. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Dana.
Thank you for tuning in for our third episode. Sorry we took a bit of a break. I know there's not many of you tuning in yet, but we actually tried filming a number of videos. We had some editing problems. We didn't quite like the content, the way it came out, all that kind of stuff. So we are switching things up a little bit. Today we wanted to have more, less like kind of news focused and more focused on just a topic that's very near and dear to our hearts, and we want to talk about with you guys, and I hope a lot of you will find it interesting as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So that topic is being self-sufficient and preparedness in the modern world. Dana and I both recently moved, to a rural area to pursue homesteading and farming on a small scale. Yeah. But we both are, I'm from a city. I was actually born and raised in Arizona. And then my husband, Nick, and I were living in Las Vegas for 2 years prior to moving out here. We live in Tennessee, East Tennessee, in December. So we moved out here in December. So we just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, she has a similar life story as to why they moved out here. So we wanted to talk about our reasons as to why we moved out here, as well as things we did while we were living in cities to be more self-sufficient and prepared for disaster. Yeah. You want to tell a little bit of your backstory, where you're from and whatnot?
So, I'm originally from Cleveland, Tennessee. But prior to moving to where we are at right now, my husband and I moved from Florida. So we lived in the city in Florida. And
pretty populated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Super, super populated. Where I was living was previously from being married, I lived in Naples. He lived in Port Charlotte area. So, and even Port Charlotte's smaller, but it's still, it's still busy. Yeah. And it's, like you said, it's still a city. So, but anyways, so from Tennessee, moved to Florida, met my husband there. And then that's kind of where we started at. But.
Yeah. So what were some of your reasons for wanting to move out of Florida, out of the city, and to the countryside to pursue a more self-sufficient lifestyle?
Yeah. Well, I'd say the first thing is that, one, I don't like the city in general. So it's nice to visit for me, but I don't like living in it. Too many people. I like a smaller town and stuff like that. More space between people.
Bigger
properties. So that was one factor, and just both of us, thankfully,
felt that way.
So there was that. And then also the factor of just kind of my childhood living in Cleveland, Tennessee. At some points we lived in more rural, like my mama lives out in a more rural area, even though she currently lives in a neighborhood, but we had other family and we lived in a trailer that was rural and had some land. And it was just so great to just, as kids, go out and just be in the lake and go play outside and everything like that. Yeah. And I just remember that. So that was something. And then also, just like you said, going into preparedness, we both wanted to be able to rely on ourselves and not the government or stores, which ends up being in the as a trickle down. But,
same hemisphere.
Yeah, exactly. So really it's just and then we wanted to not only be prepared and have things that we're able to have ourselves by not relying on the government, but also for our family. So if crap were to hit the fan, we wanted to be up and going, garden, animals, those different type of things, learning different things on how to survive if need be, not only for ourselves but for our family to come out and basically help each other and be there for one another. So that was kind of, and then also just like we felt like that was what God wanted for us, but then also that's going back to how it originally was. You know, like that was the norm, you know, doing people having farms and their animals and everything like that and living in the country, that was the norm. And we just felt like that's like, it's so awesome to be with God's creation so closely, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
So what were your reasons of, you and Nick's reason of living out here?
So when we were living in Las Vegas, we had actually moved there in the height of COVID. Like, I want to say we moved there in July 2020, July, August 2020, around then. And both our families were from Arizona. So my dad, both our families, Southern Arizona, which Las Vegas and Southern Arizona are all on the same water system. Like they're all on the same water table. I guess it all comes from the Colorado River.
Oh, wow.
So the Colorado River, it goes, you know, from in Colorado, and it's fed from snow shed in Colorado, snow melt. And then it goes down into Arizona, and then it kind of goes back over into Nevada, and then back into Arizona. And I think it might touch California there a little bit. I'm not positive. But Southern California is also fed off of the Colorado River parts of it.
Wow.
So it's a huge water resource for the Southwest. And when we moved to Las Vegas, we knew we didn't want to live there long term. We had actually just moved there kind of out of necessity because we got jobs, or I actually got a job offer there that was pretty good. We had just graduated college, so we didn't really have a lot of options, but we always knew that we wanted to move somewhere out of the Southwest because there is a water crisis in the Southwest, and that just became ever more pressing as soon as we got to Vegas, because since Vegas is a little bit higher, it's hard to explain, but they're further up the river basically. So the lake that's off the Colorado River that feeds Las Vegas is called Lake Mead, and you can see, I'll link some stories, but just every like couple months they're just posting, you know, there's just news articles about how the lake is dropped another 10 feet or another 20 feet, and bodies are popping up, and like it's just gross. And like when you go there, it's gross. The water's gross and it's low, like the lake's getting low. And Las Vegas, actually, I learned this when I was in college. By the way, I majored in environmental science, so I went to school in Southern Arizona. So this was kind of a hot topic we learned about, was the water crisis in the Southwest. So Las Vegas, they actually paid, it was like $1 billion project. It was super expensive. But they had a pipeline go from the city underneath Lake Mead. So basically like a bathtub drain at the bottom of the lake. Because there were valves where they would collect water from, but the water went below those valves where the water would come out. So they did this bathtub drain situation, and when the water gets to a certain level, like they're not gonna be letting it out of the dam anymore, and basically shut off everybody downstream, because the way the water rights work, Las Vegas has more rights to that water than, say, Phoenix or Tucson. Well, actually, Tucson doesn't get very much water from the Colorado anymore. They get their water from an aquifer. But anyways, get a little lesson in the water crisis in the Southwest. But my point is that we were very concerned, and still are because we have family down there, about the water crisis in the Southwest. And you know, my dad actually was also very concerned about that, and he's moving out here to Tennessee with us. We made the plan to move out here together. He's still just tying up loose ends. But so we were concerned about the water. We were concerned about, in 2020 with the pandemic, we started seeing just so much government overreach into our people's freedoms, our freedoms. We didn't like that. We kind of felt like it was so dystopian, like being in the city during the pandemic. Like everyone was wearing masks. It was just such a state of fear.
Yeah.
Everyone you interacted with was fearful.
Yeah.
And we didn't like that. We didn't like how it just seemed like we just didn't like interacting with those people, really.
Yeah.
But also we didn't like the proximity of, oh my gosh, well, they're already overreaching in XYZ areas, what's next, and how are we gonna now protect ourselves not just from this crisis, but potential government overreach. And there's just so many, if you're a conservative, you're maybe a little bit more tuned into sort of the writing on the walls about our government right now and the things they're doing that really infringe on our freedom. But there were so many different things popping up in the news that just made us feel very like it was urgent to get out of the city, basically. And then from there, like our plan was we've always been preppers, I would say, and my dad is a huge prepper. In fact, he's going to start a YouTube channel soon, or he wants to, on that topic, if any of you like watching prepper videos.
Yeah.
But, it was just, there's only so much you can do when you live in a city in terms of self-preparedness, because so we had, in Las Vegas, it's a desert. It's super hot. You can't really have a good garden outside because the climate's not right and there's no water. You're only allowed to water once a week.
Are you serious?
Yeah, there's all these rules because the water's literally running out.
Oh my god.
So there's all these rules about the water. But, we had an indoor garden, hydroponic garden, which my husband is really the nerd about all that. But, so we had a hydroponic garden. We had some water storage in the house, 100 gallons. But beyond that, and just having like 6 months we had about 6 months of food, like dry food stored up, there really wasn't much we could do to be prepared for anything beyond that, because there was no land or water that we could tap into. Yeah. We were reliant on going to stores. That was just the reality. Yeah. And even living out here, you are still reliant on going to stores to a degree, but we also have land with water and food on it. So it's like worst case, we're reliant to go to the stores for certain things, but we don't really need those things. Yeah. We just want them.
Yeah. It's just in the instance if something were to happen where you can survive on your property without going to the stores. Right. If, I don't know, the government shut it down or crap hits the fan and you can't go or whatever.
Like with COVID or the pandemic, I don't know if we're going to, it's fine if our video, whatever. But I was worried about the YouTube. I know they flag people who say that word. But with the pandemic, it was not in Nevada necessarily, but in some states, people weren't allowed to go to restaurants or grocery stores if they were not wearing their mask or if they didn't show their vaccine card. And, that's terrifying. Because, whether you agree with the science that they put out on vaccines and masks or not, the fact that the government is saying there's requirements for you to participate in society. Yeah. That's terrifying. Like, that's overreach, no matter what.
Yeah.
Even if I agreed with the reasonings, which I don't, but if I did, I would still feel that was overreach. I mean, we had to start our own business, which was a blessing that we did, but because, our jobs wanted us to get this vaccine. And so it kind of just was like a wake-up call for us that, oh my gosh, there's the writing's on the walls. Who knows what's next? Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Especially, we want to have kids. So we just I couldn't imagine having a kid, seeing all these people so afraid. Because the big thing is, I don't want to live in fear. I want to live in a state where I feel confident and I feel I have trust in God. Mm-hmm. And we had that calling and we obeyed it. Yeah. Basically is what it came down to. And rather than sitting and being afraid of, oh my gosh, what if this happens? What if that happens? No, instead it was God put this calling on our heart that, hey, if you move here, this is a situation where I can actually take care of you. Because like you were saying, getting back to nature is getting back to God in many ways. Because, in the Bible, when he talks about providing for his people, he talks about how he'll grow fig trees in the desert and evergreens and stuff like that, and he'll make springs and stuff like that pop up for them. That's when you're in nature. When you're in the city, for me, the city just began to feel so far removed from God.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Marie. Yeah. No. Oh, sorry. No, definitely. I agree 100% that that's the case. And because we become so reliant, not only just government, but on...
Yeah, it's not just the government, it's the whole system.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The whole, and not that it's not good to be, it's okay to have community and need people. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I just think it's when these people, this government, and this community, if you want to call it that, it's really corporations. They don't have your best interest at heart. They are not God-centered people. They've shown us time and time again, so many of these corporations, that they pursue satanic agendas. And so I don't have trust that they are going to take care of me if something bad happens, even if they're in the position to do so.
Yeah.
I just don't trust that. So we wanted to pursue a lifestyle and be somewhere where we could build a community with other Christians who we know, like, we can trust, because they're on the same path as us.
Yeah.
And they have the same morals as us.
Yeah.
Because the idea that you can trust any corporation or our government when they've proven so many times that you can't.
No, definitely. And like you said, there's community, like, out here for the people who live the way we live or live the way we want to live. Mm-hmm. So, and not necessarily, like, obviously for friends, you're closer in each other's lives, but even just where we're at or general areas like this, not just Tennessee, and there's other areas where you may not interact, you may never even met the person, but if something were to happen, they're there for you with their resources. They've got
100 head of cattle.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you have something.
They have a garden. Yeah. They've got,
and you're just willing to help each other. And that's the whole point, is like, if everyone did a little bit of something, you don't have to have a big full ranch or something going on. But if you just had a little something, or if you're able to do something, like for these older people, out here that are doing that, you help them, they help you. That's kind of the community that's out there with being self-reliant.
Yeah.
And basically doing our own thing instead of, living our day-to-day lives, corporate lives is how I feel like I used to live.
Totally, like just getting food from
Yeah.
restaurants, and you know, most people, I don't, like, especially ours, most people don't even know how to cook.
Yeah.
I mean, it's when I was in college, which wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
You know, I interacted with a lot of people our age, friends, you know, and classmates, and they just would eat junk.
Yeah.
Like prepackaged things, or go to restaurants, or
Yeah.
go to the food hall. And I mean, I had a roommate who literally didn't even know how to cook eggs.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Grown female.
Really?
And you know, it's like, it's just so commonplace to be reliant on convenience.
Convenient, yeah. That's a good word for it.
Today. And like, even like I try to cook a lot of my food from scratch. I make, you know, homemade sourdough bread, and it's a long process. It's a 2-day process to make the bread I make, sourdough.
Mm-hmm.
But I am willing to do that, not just because it's healthier, but because it's a skill that I have, that I'll always have, and I'm not reliant on going to the store to get bread if I need it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can do that myself.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's so many things like that, which, of course, I'm still on a journey of learning a lot of them, and so is Dana. But
Yeah.
I don't want to always choose the easiest, most convenient option, because what if that option isn't there one day? Then what am I going to do?
Yeah.
How am I going to cook for my family if I don't know how to cook?
Yeah. Well, because let's just say the internet went out. People would be screwed. I mean, say there was no more internet. You can't look anything up. You can't look up how to do.
They wouldn't know how to cook a pot of beans.
Yeah.
I mean, most people don't know how to, I mean, cook anything.
Yeah. Or do...
You know, oh, what temperature does the chicken need to be at to be safe? I don't know.
Yeah.
I need to Google it, you know?
Yeah.
Anyways, so it's just really important to us to start to develop skills of self-reliancy, you know, skills that were commonplace 100 years ago or even 50 years ago.
Yeah.
That nobody I knew, or my parents knew, or I mean, even up to my grandparents, you know, some older people might know how to sew or do some stuff, but it just got taken out of culture, really, to be self-reliant because of that convenience, that everything becoming so convenient.
Yeah. Definitely.
And simultaneously, you know, with convenience is a cost. Yeah. This just gets into a whole bunch, I guess we could talk about, but
Yeah.
bigger conversation of, I don't like the culture of convenience. I don't like the results that it's given us.
Yeah.
I think, you know, obviously we had to try it out.
Yeah.
But the people it's created, the culture it's created, I think is so far removed from reality and therefore God, because ultimately God, you know, Jesus is the truth, is truth, and the further you get away from reality, and truth, the further you get away from God. It's been my experience. Yeah. And it's been my experience interacting with people who live the predominant culture of today in America, you know, the convenience culture, versus people who are trying to live more in alignment with what we've been talking about. You can just tell the awareness that comes from, you know, getting your own water every day. Like Dana and Colton, you know, they don't have water on their property. They go and source that themselves. Yeah. But just the awareness that comes from interacting with God's creation and being reliant upon God, not upon some company, not upon the government, but upon God. Yeah. That really, I just think is beautiful, and is the life I want to pursue, and is the culture I would like to bring back for my children to exist in.
Yeah, being in the convenience culture. I mean, like you said, we tried that. We were in that,
Yeah, we were raised in that.
Yeah, and being how, like, living the lifestyle we're trying to live now, we realized, like, how like, unaware and unappreciative we were of the convenience of water and the grocery store that's 2 seconds away, and all your normal conveniences. It's just crazy how the little details you don't really think about, but then when you get out here, it's a different ballgame. Not to say that it's easier. I would say
it's a lot
harder.
Which is, I think, the reason a lot of people, I think, have this calling on their heart. Because even when I talk to people who say aren't necessarily Christian or conservative, they're very fascinated by the back to the land movement, I guess we could call it. You know, it's like kind of trending on social media.
Yeah.
People having little homesteads and farming and stuff like that. It's kind of, it's intriguing to people. But I think a lot of people just don't end up pursuing it necessarily because of I believe that the convenience culture is slavery. And I can expand upon that, why that's a belief that I hold. I think that's something that history has shown us, and that's something that you can see today, is how people become enslaved by convenience. And it's always the people who are going to be the most free are always going to be the people who are doing it themselves, who are willing to put in the work. And that's hard, you know. There were a lot of barriers to us moving out here, both of us, you know, and for anyone who lives in a city, there's going to be barriers to get it out of the city. There's going to be financial barriers. There's going to be, you know, oh, well, what am I going to do for work if I were to move out there? Or what about my sister? She lives here, and my friends, and, you know, you can come up with 1,000,001 reasons why you don't want to move. But when you have that calling, the way I saw it, the way my husband and I and my dad saw it, is that it was a calling from God that we needed to obey, or we would suffer the consequences. And I think that's something everybody needs to evaluate for themselves. But I just wanted to put that perspective out there, because I don't know if everybody looks at it that way.
No, I think you're right. It's a rat wheel. It's like people get stuck on it. And to them, it is hard work, but at the same time, the crazy thing is, and that will push them to not do it. That will make them think, oh no, I can't do it, or I don't know how, or I don't have the space. But in every situation you're in, there is a way for you to start heading towards self-reliance. I think even...
And I don't even like the term self-reliancy, because we're not self-reliant. We are ultimately always reliant on God.
Yes.
But I think what we're really trying to talk about is we got ourselves out of... Really, we put ourselves in a situation where we can be reliant on God, rather than a situation where companies and the government are our God that we're reliant on. Because you're always going to be reliant on someone. The term self-reliancy, no one can ever be completely self-reliant.
No.
It's just not possible. I mean...
Nope. It's not our own will. Our own doing.
But when you are removed from God, removed from nature, and you're in this system of... I personally, like I said, I think it's a system of slavery. I think people, like you said, they get stuck in this rat race. But, you know, they feel stuck, and that is something, that's just their own perception too. Like, I know that I used to think that way as well, but as soon as you start praying about something and you give that to God, He's going to move mountains to get you closer to him.
Mm-hmm.
That he wants that just as much as you do. Like, how my family ended up getting out here was so crazy. It happened so fast. As soon as we said yes to the idea and we committed that we're going to do that, we just don't know how, God started saying this is how.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it happened really fast. I mean, I'm talking, it was like, we made the decision we wanted to get out of the cities and start looking for property somewhere. We didn't know where. That from that point to when we were under contract on a property, I think was 3 months.
Oh, wow. What made you guys choose Tennessee? Or were you just on Zillow and just like found one in Tennessee?
No, we chose Tennessee because a number of reasons. We liked the politics of Tennessee. We felt, again, mostly due to the oppression we saw during the pandemic in blue states. We were not interested in moving to, there are obviously so many gorgeous states with tons of great land all over the U.S. That's not just Tennessee, although I am biased. I think East Tennessee is the most beautiful place you could go. But anyways, we did choose. We narrowed that down to wanting red state. Even though oppression can still exist in red states, of course, we felt that it was going to be less likely. Mm-hmm. And there were going to be more people in a red state that we would have those common cultural beliefs, more likely to be Christian, because that's just statistically, Christians tend to be conservative. Yeah. And so that's why we so we wanted a red state, then we were looking at different red states, then we wanted a state that would have good ideal weather, lots of water, of course, because we were, that's what we were really getting away from, was the water crisis in the Southwest. So we wanted somewhere that had lots of water, good mild seasons, because we are, all of us beginners in the homesteading sphere. We hadn't really ever gardened to the point of, we just weren't that experienced in a number of areas, and so we wanted a climate that would be very forgiving. And that's what it is in East Tennessee. It's zone 7, I'm pretty sure. 7A, I think. 7A, and it's just beautiful. And also in Tennessee there's no state income tax. So that was really like the home run. We're like, okay. Check. Although it was a really long move coming from the Southwest all the way over here. Again, my dad is still in the process of coming out here. It would have been so much easier for us to move to like Texas or somewhere.
Did you guys consider Texas?
Yeah, we considered Texas, and even I have a sister who lives in Colorado. But again, Colorado's blue. Texas also has water issues. The climate's not ideal.
Now, what was like your runner-up state? Like, did you think of Georgia or Indiana or?
No, I think, really there wasn't even a runner-up state. We talked about, maybe Utah or Colorado. Yeah. So it would be closer, because my dad and we did a drive through Utah to go to Colorado to see my sister last year for 4th of July. Yeah. And we kind of talked on that trip, like, there's beautiful areas out there with water and stuff, but it's still a more arid environment. There's not abundant, the water is not abundant the way it is here. Oh, okay. I mean, here it's practically a sponge. Like, water will there's springs everywhere, creeks, and lakes and rivers, all of that. So
yeah, that's really cool that you guys came upon like that was just something. And then I won't say the area, but I forget, how'd you find this area? Or was it just on Zillow you were looking?
Yeah, it was just through...
But you were looking on whole of Tennessee or just East Tennessee?
Just East Tennessee.
Oh, so you were looking at just East Tennessee.
Yeah. Because East Tennessee is pretty different than West Tennessee in that West Tennessee is warmer and more flat.
Yeah.
I guess those are the two biggest differences.
Yeah.
There's more, like, I would say West Tennessee probably has more farmland, actually.
Yeah, because it's not so
flat.
mountainous.
Yeah. So there are probably more of a farming community in West Tennessee, but I would say it's more so like big agriculture type farming, not necessarily like small scale organic homesteader like micro farms.
Yeah.
Which is really more of the community we were looking for.
Yeah. No, exactly.
So we wanted to kind of just give a little bit of our backstory, how we, got to where we are, what we're passionate about, what our vision and purpose are kind of in life, and what we're moving towards and what we'll be moving towards for the foreseeable future. Because again, it's not something you ever really achieve self-sufficiency. You just work, you just get closer and closer. So you gain a skill, you gain
some knowledge.
The
Lord helped you along the way.
But I'm so thankful we made that decision. The Lord has blessed us in so many ways for being obedient. Nick and I say all the time, we just can't believe that this is our life at our age, especially. We're pretty young. We're both, I'm 24, he's 25, but we feel really blessed to be pursuing our dreams at such a young age. Because I know, like my dad, this has been his dream too for a long time, and he's not getting to pursue it until he's going to be close to 60. He's in his late 50s. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of give, I guess, our perspective on the importance of breaking free from consumer culture. And not that you have to completely, do it. Like, we still go to Walmart on occasion and Tractor Supply. Okay, we try to go to Rural King, not Tractor Supply.
Rural King's great.
But, we are still, and we probably always will be. But it's just that you're not around that all the time, like when you live in a city. And you're not around other people who are around that, who are like that all the time.
We think just in all aspects it's just the best way to go, because it comes down to survival. Because we go to those stores, we do that, but right now we have the ability to have the help of those stores and different things, and so we're getting the knowledge. We have internet, so we're getting the knowledge now, starting with our animals and all these things. So let's
doing the best we can.
So if crap did hit the fan, we're prepared. Like, we do have some knowledge, and we do have food, the necessities, food, water. You know, so that's what it's about, really.
That's what it's about, and I think that's something we'd like to touch on this podcast a lot more, is pointing out sort of the news stories and the writing on the walls that I don't know if it'll be one event or if it's just going to keep trickling, but the writing on the walls that our freedoms are being taken away, and that people who submit to that oppression are going to end up enslaved, and already are. It's already happening. So I just want to point, I was trying to think of some of the news stories. Obviously, the pandemic everything that was involved in there. We should do a whole episode unpacking the pandemic sometime and the layers of oppression that were occurring during the pandemic that really woke us up. That could be its own whole episode, but I was trying to think of other things I saw before we moved out here that were really lit the fire under us to get going. And I remembered this was after we'd already made the decision, but it was kind of just confirmation because it was actually like right after I was looking up the dates, right after we really made the decision to come out here, or to leave the city, rather. We hadn't even visited Tennessee yet. Come here, Rosie. Come here, Rosie girl. Is that, I don't know if you guys remember this, but in August of last year, Jackson, Mississippi, which is the capital of Mississippi, had this water crisis where they had to turn their water off, or it ran out or something, but yeah, I think it ran out. But the governor, basically, the water issues had been known. It wasn't a case of they lacked water. It was the infrastructure needed repairs and needed to be, managed better. And the government was very aware of those problems because even leading up to this crisis, there was water pressure issues for people, and the water was, people would have to boil the water. It wasn't clean. Yeah. And you see this in other instances too. But anyways, in August last year, it was this kind of, I wouldn't say it was huge news, but it was to me, because I pay attention to stuff like this, that the Mississippi governor declared it a state of emergency because of the water crisis in Jackson. People were without water. Helicopters had to bring in water bottles to people. It was like, go get your water bottles from the library, and people would turn on their tap. No water would be coming out. They couldn't flush their toilets. They couldn't take a bath or a shower, and they couldn't do dishes. They had no water. So that, just the way, if you go and watch that video of the governor announcing that state of emergency, the way he said it was just so, I don't know, like as if he was shocked. As if it was a surprise to him that the water turned off, and, this is a tragedy. Yeah. And it made me realize they're going to do the exact same thing in the Southwest. Yeah. Even though the writing's been on the walls for years, I don't know when the official crisis is going to reach a head in the Southwest, but when it does, I guarantee the governors of those southwestern states are going to get on the news and just be totally shocked. Yeah. Oh my gosh, the water's gone. This is, it's just a disaster. Call in FEMA, call in whatever, because this is a disaster. And I just realized that that's the thing. They really don't, even when the writing's on the wall, they don't care. They have their own interests. And they don't care about the people and warning them, and because they don't want people to have a mass exodus out of a state, out of a city, which would then, lower the property values and all of that. They just want to keep it going good while it can. Yeah. They don't care. And people who don't pay attention, Phoenix is one of the most moved to cities in the whole country. It's growing like crazy, and they have no water. So, I don't know. It's just, once I saw that, I was just kind of like, that's, you just start to notice these things, and you start to develop a distrust for the government once you realize how little they actually care about public health and safety. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be aware of what's going on locally, especially because I guarantee that's what's going to happen in the Southwest. The government's, and then if you live there, you're going to be out of water, which is going to suck, and you're going to have to there's going to be a migration. You're going to be, it's going to be a crisis. But B, if you own property there, which most, a lot of people do.
Yeah. Your
property value is going to plummet. So now you're not just in like a immediate crisis of finding water, but you're also lost all your investment in your property, and you need to find a new job, and it's your whole life is
and that's the crazy part too. That would be a factor to push me to moving, and or it, not even just moving, but getting these things yourself, because people, like, if someone did have land out there, I mean, I don't know how much it rains out there. Start a rain catch. Go ahead and if you got land, do stuff like that to where you have.
Yeah.
That way, when they do shut off the water, you have some.
Definitely.
Because now you're just screwed because you were relying on your tap coming out of your thing and being able to flush your toilet, and all of a sudden they cut the water off, and now you got nothing. So
and that, for me and for Nick and my dad was making us anxious, And so to work towards, I think everyone should work towards not being anxious and fearful.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes you feel that anxiety and that fear for a reason, and it's to move you. It's not just like, get on a pill because you're anxious and fearful.
Yeah.
Really tune into why you're feeling that way, and is there actually logic behind it, or is it entirely emotional?
Yeah.
Or is it just crazy? And in this case, we felt it was actually very logical to feel that way. And again, the writing was on the walls. So, that's why we moved. And so going forward, Dane and I just wanted to say that, kind of give that backstory and
just let you guys know the importance of having this type of mindset.
Yeah.
And starting to do research and start looking into different things on how you can start where you're at. Because this doesn't mean you need to move to East Tennessee. This just means or to Tennessee, or to anywhere, any other state. You can start doing it whatever state you live in.
Where even if you are living in the city, you can start making changes to, like you said, start rainwater collection, get some
microgreens,
get some backyard chickens, things like that. Just so and this will be something, like I said, my dad wants to talk about a lot, but there are so many little changes you can make that in the event of an emergency will really make the difference for your survival.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But the reason to make a move, I think, is more than just survival. It's because you want to live your life again in a different culture.
Yeah.
Which was ultimately why we made that decision, because we wanted to participate in a Christ-centered culture, not a consumer-based culture.
Yeah, definitely.
And, I just think that that's a big thing, that in the Bible, Christians are called to serve others. And, in a consumer-based culture, it just gets you in this trap that everything is supposed to be for you. It's a very, it breeds narcissism, really, because, I'm not comfortable, I don't want to give up my time, I don't want to give up this, that, or the other, and versus when you are living in a different culture, it's more commonplace to go help out a friend on the weekend, because you're not worried about going and spending money at the movies or whatever. Your time really becomes yours again, and therefore becomes God's again.
Mm-hmm. Very well said.
Yeah. So anyways, going forward, we want to try to focus on more news stories that, again, are kind of the writing on the walls to help anybody out there who, is kind of agrees with us or even doesn't agree with us, but, is interested in our perspective. Because it's definitely, there's so much going on in news and politics and culture that, again, pushed us to thinking this way and making these changes, and I think would be good for other people to start paying attention to as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time.
Yeah. Bye.